Welcome to my channel, Lobby 22. Hold on because it's going to be something incredible. The Seattle skyline shimmered under a September sunset, painting Lucas Bennett's quiet street in shades of amber. At 35, Lucas had carved out a life most would envy, a rising star at a tech startup, a craftsman home with Puget Sound views, and a family that anchored his world. He met Ava, his wife, a decade ago at a University of Washington lecture, their bond forged over late-night coffee and shared dreams. They married a year after her graduation, and when their daughter, Mia, arrived 7 years ago, their joy felt unbreakable. Mia, a bright-eyed first grader who loved sketching rainbows, was their heart. Ava had paused her marketing career to raise her, filling their home with laughter and warmth. But when Mia started school, Ava returned to her old firm, eager to reignite her ambition. Lucas cheered her on, proud of her drive. "It's a new chapter," she'd said, her hazel eyes sparkling. He trusted her until the cracks began to show. Ava's late nights at the office grew frequent. Her cozy sweaters gave way to sleek blazers and heels, her phone buzzing with texts she'd brush off as work. Their movie nights, once a cherished ritual, vanished, replaced by her distracted sighs. Lucas noticed her perfume lingering longer, her smiles forced. "It's for our future," she'd snap when he asked about her hours, her tone sharp enough to silence him. He tried to bury his unease. Ava was still the woman who danced with him in the rain, who cried when Mia took her first steps. Surely her love hadn't faded. But doubts crept in. She skipped their weekend hikes with Mia, citing deadlines. Her excuses felt hollow, her distance palpable. Lucas clung to hope, blind to the storm brewing. The truth crashed down on Mia's last day of school. With Mia at her grandparents' cabin for the weekend, Lucas planned a romantic evening to reconnect, a homemade pasta dinner, Ava's favorite, and a bottle of Pinot Noir. Humming, he carried grocery bags into their kitchen, envisioning a night to rekindle their spark. But as he set the bags down, Ava descended the stairs in a red dress that hugged her curves, her hair in perfect waves, lips painted crimson. "You look incredible," Lucas said, grinning. "Where are we going?" "Give me 5 to change." Ava's smile was sharp, a blade disguised as a curve. "We're not going anywhere, Lucas," she said, her voice ice cold. "I have a date with Julian." Lucas froze, the bag slipping from his grip. Julian Harper, Ava's boss, was a 40-something executive with a silver tongue and a ruthless streak. "What are you saying?" he stammered, heart-pounding. Ava crossed her arms, unfazed. "I'm with Julian now. We're staying married, but things are changing. You'll accept it or he'll take everything, your job, your savings, even Mia." The doorbell cut through the silence. Ava opened it, revealing Julian, his tailored suit screaming arrogance. Behind him loomed a burly man, his security a silent warning. "Let's talk, Mr. Bennett," Julian said, striding in like he owned the house. Lucas's fists clenched, but the bodyguard's presence held him back. Julian's voice was calm, venomous. "Ava's mine now in every way that matters. You'll play the happy husband, keep things normal for Mia. Cross me and my friends, lawyers, judges, cops, will make sure you're jobless, broke, and cut off from your daughter. Maybe even accused of something ugly." Lucas's vision blurred with rage, but he was trapped. Ava stood by Julian, avoiding his gaze. "It's for our future," she said, her words a cruel echo. As they left, the door slammed and Lucas sank to the floor, betrayal burning through him. But a spark of defiance flared. They thought they'd broken him. They were wrong. That night, Lucas barely slept, his mind racing. By morning, he made a vow he'd protect Mia and reclaim his life, no matter the cost. At the library, using a public computer to avoid a digital trail, he began researching Julian Harper. Whispers of shady deals, kickbacks, insider trading surfaced on obscure forums. A name popped up, Elena, a former colleague fired by Julian. She might hold the key. Lucas tracked her down, meeting her in a dim coffee shop. Elena's eyes were wary but sharp. "Julian's dangerous," she whispered. "He's bribed city officials, coerced employees. Check his office conversations, he's careless there." Her words lit a fire in Lucas. He bought a voice-activated recorder disguised as a USB drive and slipped it into Ava's work bag. During a fleeting moment, she left it on the counter. At home, Ava's boldness grew. She taunted Lucas with sushi nights with Julian, claiming they were building a secure future. "In a few years, we'll be set," she said, oblivious to his resolve. Then Mia's voice broke through one evening, small and trembling. "Why does Mommy work so much?" Lucas's heart shattered. "She's just busy, sweetheart," he lied, pulling her close. That moment sealed his mission. He'd bring Julian down for Mia. Lucas Bennett's world had shattered, but the embers of his resolve glowed brighter each day. The Seattle rain drummed against his office window as he sat at his desk, the hum of the tech startup around him a distant buzz. Ava's betrayal and Julian Harper's threats looped in his mind, but Lucas wasn't the type to break. He'd protect Mia, his 7-year-old daughter, no matter what. Her innocent question, "Why does mommy work so much?" had lit a fire in him. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. After slipping a voice-activated recorder into Ava's work bag, Lucas waited, his nerves taut. The device, disguised as a USB drive, was his gamble to catch Julian's schemes. Elena, the former colleague who'd tipped him off, had warned that Julian was careless in his office, often bragging about his shady deals. But the risk was real. If Ava or Julian found the recorder, Lucas could lose everything, his job, his savings, even Mia. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on his plan. Days dragged by, each one heavier than the last. Ava's behavior grew colder. She'd breeze into the house after her sushi nights with Julian, her perfume sharp and her smile smug. "You should be grateful," she said one evening, tossing her coat over a chair. "Julian's connections will set us up for life." Lucas bit back his anger, his jaw tight. "Set you up, you mean?" he muttered, but she ignored him, heading upstairs. Her indifference stung worse than her words. At night, Lucas retreated to the basement, his makeshift sanctuary. He pored over the library research he'd saved on a burner phone, digging deeper into Julian's world. Elena's tip led him to a disgruntled contractor who'd posted anonymously online about Julian's firm skimming city funds. The contractor hinted at bribes to local officials funneled through shell companies. Lucas's pulse quickened. If he could prove this, Julian's threats would crumble. But he needed the recorder to deliver. One rainy Thursday, Ava came home early, her face pale. "You're not at sushi night," Lucas said, his tone edged with sarcasm as he helped Mia with her homework. Ava glared. "Julian had a meeting. Not that you care." She stormed upstairs, leaving her bag on the counter. Lucas's heart raced. This was his chance. While Mia colored, he slipped into the kitchen, his hands trembling as he unzipped Ava's bag. The recorder was still there, nestled among pens. He swapped it for a decoy USB, praying she wouldn't notice. Back in the basement, Lucas plugged the recorder into his laptop, his breath shallow. The audio crackled to life. Julian's voice, smug and clear, filled the room. "Then it's a problem, Victor," he said. Victor Lang, a senior partner at the firm, responded, "He'll fold. If not, I know a prosecutor who owes me. We can make his life hell, maybe a fraud charge." Ava's voice chimed in, cold as ever, "Lucas won't fight. He loves Mia too much." Lucas's blood boiled, but the next words stopped him cold. Julian laughed. "Once we close the waterfront deal, those bribes will be untraceable. The mayor's office is already on board." Lucas replayed the clip, stunned. This wasn't just about Ava's affair. Julian was neck-deep in corruption, and Victor was complicit. The waterfront deal had to be the city's redevelopment project, a multi-million-dollar contract. If Lucas could expose this, Julian's empire would collapse. But he needed more. He reset the recorder and slipped it back into Ava's bag the next morning, his hands steadier now. The game was on. He reached out to Elena again, meeting her at a crowded diner to avoid suspicion. Her eyes darted nervously as she slid into the booth. "You got something?" she asked, sipping her coffee. Lucas nodded, keeping his voice low. "Enough to hurt him, but I need more." "What's the waterfront deal?" Elena's face tightened. "It's dirty money," she whispered. "Julian's firm is overbilling the city, funneling cash to fake subcontractors. I was fired when I asked questions." She hesitated, then added, "Be careful. Julian's paranoid. He's got eyes everywhere." That night, Lucas's resolve was tested. Ava came home late, her eyes bloodshot. "You're pathetic, hiding in the basement," she sneered, standing in the doorway. "Julian says you're a coward." Lucas gripped the armrest, fighting the urge to snap. "And you're a fool for believing him," he said evenly. Ava laughed, but it was hollow. "You'll see, Lucas. We're untouchable." As she turned to leave, her bag slipped, spilling pens across the floor. Lucas's heart stopped. The recorder was in there. He lunged to help, casually pocketing the device before she noticed. "Clumsy," he said, forcing a smile. Ava didn't suspect a thing. The close call shook him. He needed to move faster. He met with Rachel Kim, his divorce lawyer, in her small downtown office. "This recording is dynamite," Rachel said, listening to the clip. "But it's not enough for court. Could be inadmissible without context. You need more proof. Something undeniable." She leaned forward. "And Lucas, don't do anything stupid. Julian's connected, but he's not invincible." Lucas nodded, his mind racing. He'd keep the recorder in play, but he'd also tail Julian himself. The next evening, Lucas parked across from Julian's firm, watching from his car. The rain blurred his view. but he saw Julian leave with Victor, both laughing as they ducked into a black SUV. Lucas followed at a distance, his pulse pounding. They stopped at a high-end bar downtown, a known haunt for city officials. Through the window, Lucas spotted a man in a suit, later identified as a city council member, handing Julian an envelope. Lucas snapped photos with his phone, his hands shaking. This was it, proof of the bribes. As he drove home, a text from Elena buzzed. "Julian's asking about you. Be careful." Lucas's stomach churned. Had Julian noticed something? Was Ava suspicious? He checked the recorder the next day, finding another damning clip. Julian and Victor discussing how to neutralize Lucas if he dug too deep. "A tip to his boss about financial irregularities should do it," Victor said. Lucas's blood ran cold. They were already moving against him. That night, Mia crawled into his lap, her sketchbook open. "Daddy, are you mad at Mommy?" she asked, her eyes wide. Lucas hugged her tightly. "No, sweetheart. I'm just fixing things for us." Her trust fueled him. He wouldn't let Julian win. With the recordings and photos, Lucas had a weapon. But the clock was ticking. Julian's suspicion was growing, and one wrong move could cost him Mia. The Seattle rain fell in relentless sheets, mirroring the storm in Lucas Bennett's chest. His plan to bring down Julian Harper, the man who'd stolen his wife and threatened his daughter, Mia, was gaining traction. The voice-activated recorder in Ava's bag had captured damning evidence. Julian and his partner, Victor Lang, plotting to frame Lucas and discussing bribes tied to a shady waterfront deal. Photos of Julian's late-night meeting with a city council member added weight to Lucas's arsenal. But the text from Elena, his informant, echoed in his mind. "Julian's asking about you. Be careful." The walls were closing in. Lucas sat in his basement, the dim glow of his laptop casting shadows. He replayed the latest recording, his heart pounding as Julian's voice sneered. "If Bennett digs deeper, we'll plant something on his work computer. Tax evasion. Maybe. His startup won't keep a fraud." Victor's laugh followed. "He's too soft for Mia's sake. He'll break." Lucas's fists clenched. They underestimated him, but their paranoia meant he had to act fast. The next morning, Lucas met his divorce lawyer, Rachel Kim, at a bustling coffee shop to avoid suspicion. Her eyes widened as she listened to the recordings through earbuds. "This is huge, Lucas," she whispered, glancing around. "Bribery, extortion, conspiracy. It's enough to bury Julian and maybe Victor. But we need to be strategic. If they suspect you, they'll destroy the evidence, or you." She slid him a flash drive. "Back this up, and get more if you can." Lucas nodded, his mind racing. The recorder was still in Ava's bag, but retrieving it again was risky. Ava had been erratic lately, her taunts sharper. Last night, she'd smirked. "Julian says you're irrelevant, Lucas. Accept it." Her words cut, but they also fueled him. He wasn't irrelevant. He was a father fighting for his daughter. Mia's drawings, pinned to the basement wall, reminded him why he couldn't stop. That evening, Lucas waited until Ava was distracted, helping Mia with a puzzle. He slipped into the kitchen, his pulse spiking as he unzipped her bag. The recorder was there, but a new pen caught his eye, one he hadn't seen before. Had Ava replaced it? Was Julian onto him? He swapped the recorder for his decoy USB, his hands steady despite the dread. Back in the basement, he checked the new audio. It was gold. Julian boasting about a second deal, this time laundering money through a fake charity. Victor's voice chimed in. "The prosecutor's in our pocket. Bennett tries anything, he's done." Lucas's breath caught. This was bigger than he'd imagined. He texted Elena. "Got more. Charity scam. Need names." Her reply was instant. "Meet me tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pier. Come alone." The cryptic tone unnerved him. Elena had been cagey about her own history with Julian. Fired for asking questions, she'd said. But what if she had her own agenda? Lucas pushed the thought aside. He needed her. The next day, Lucas dropped Mia at school, her hug lingering. "You're the best daddy," she said, her smile bright. He forced a grin, hiding his fear. If Julian framed him, Mia could lose him. At work, his boss called him in, brow furrowed. "Lucas, we got an anonymous tip about discrepancies in your expense reports. You know anything?" Lucas's stomach dropped. Julian was making his move. "It's a mistake," he said calmly, but his mind screamed. He had to end this now. At the pier, Elena waited under a flickering streetlight, her hood up against the drizzle. "Julian spooked," she said, her voice low. "He's auditing the firm's devices, looking for leaks. You need to move fast." She handed him a USB drive. "Bank records, proof of the charity scam. I hacked their server before I was fired." Lucas stared, stunned. "Why risk this?" he asked. Elena's eyes darkened. "Julian ruined my career, my life. This isn't just about you." Before Lucas could press her, a black SUV screeched nearby. Elena grabbed his arm. "Go now." Lucas sprinted to his car, his heart hammering. Was it Julian's bodyguard? He drove off, checking his mirrors, the USB burning a hole in his pocket. Back home, he locked the basement door and opened the files. They detailed transfers to a fake charity, signed by Julian and Victor, with timestamps matching the waterfront deal. Combined with the recordings, it was enough to take them down. But the close call at the pier shook him. Julian was closing in. The next morning, Ava confronted him in the kitchen, her eyes narrow. "Why were you out so late?" she snapped. Lucas shrugged, feigning calm. "Evening run. Clears my head." Her gaze lingered, suspicious, but she didn't push. Lucas knew the clock was ticking. He had to get the evidence to Rachel before Julian struck. That afternoon, Rachel called. "I've got a contact at the DA's office who's clean," she said. "If we present this anonymously, they'll investigate Julian and Victor without linking it to you. But it's risky, they'll fight dirty." Lucas agreed. He dropped the evidence at a dead-drop mailbox Rachel arranged, keeping his hands clean. But as he prepared the package, recordings, photos, bank records, his phone buzzed. It was his boss again. "Lucas, HR's launching a formal audit. You need to come in tomorrow." Panic surged. Julian was tightening the noose. Lucas drove to the mailbox under cover of night, the package hidden in his jacket. As he dropped it in, headlights flashed behind him. He ducked into an alley, his breath ragged, but no one followed. Had he been seen? Back home, Mia was asleep, her latest drawing, a rainbow over their house, on the fridge. Lucas touched it, his resolve hardening. He'd face Julian's audit and win for her. The next day, Lucas walked into work, bracing for a fight. HR presented the discrepancies, altered expense reports he'd never filed. "This isn't my work," he said, his voice steady. "Check the metadata. Someone's framing me." The HR manager frowned, promising to investigate. Lucas left, heart pounding. Had Julian planted the evidence? Or was it Victor? Either way, the DA would have the package soon. Lucas just had to hold on. That night, Mia climbed into his lap, her sketchbook open. "Daddy, are we okay?" she asked, her voice small. Lucas hugged her tightly. "We're more than okay, sweetheart. I'm fixing everything." Her trust was his anchor. Julian thought, "Daddy, are we okay?" she asked, her voice small. Lucas hugged her tightly. "We're more than okay, sweetheart. I'm fixing everything." Her trust fueled him. Julian thought he'd won, but Lucas was one step ahead. The evidence was out, and the truth was coming for Julian and Ava. Lucas Bennett's heart raced as he drove through Seattle's rain-soaked streets, the weight of his plan pressing against him. The evidence, recordings of Julian Harper's bribes, photos of his shady deals, and bank records from Elena, sat safely in a mailbox en route to the DA's office. But Julian's noose was tightening. The false expense reports planted at Lucas's tech startup had triggered an HR audit, and Elena's warning rang in his ears. Julian's paranoid. He's got eyes everywhere. Lucas was running out of time to protect his daughter, Mia, and himself. At home, Ava's behavior grew erratic. She stormed into the kitchen, her eyes blazing, as Lucas helped Mia with her bedtime routine. "You're sneaking around, aren't you?" Ava snapped, her voice low to avoid Mia's ears. Lucas kept his face neutral, tucking Mia's drawing of a rainbow into her backpack. Just doing my job, Ava, he said coolly. Unlike you, I'm here for Mia. Ava's lips curled, but she didn't push further, grabbing her bag and heading upstairs. Lucas's pulse steadied. She hadn't noticed the recorder was gone again. The next morning, Lucas dropped Mia at school, her small hand squeezing his. "You're my hero, Daddy," she said, her smile piercing his heart. He forced a grin, hiding the dread. If Julian's frame-up succeeded, he could lose her. At work, the HR audit loomed. His boss, Karen, met him in a sterile conference room. "The discrepancies don't add up, Lucas," she said, frowning. "The metadata shows these reports were edited from an external IP. Someone's targeting you." Lucas exhaled, relief mixing with fear. "Check deeper," he urged. "I'm clean." Karen nodded, promising a thorough review. That afternoon, Lucas met Rachel Kim, his lawyer, in a crowded downtown diner. She slid a burner phone across the table. "The DA got your package," she whispered. "They're launching a quiet investigation into Julian and Victor Lang. Your evidence, those recordings, the bank records, it's solid. But Julian's connected. If he catches wind, he'll retaliate." Lucas gripped the phone. "What's next?" Rachel's eyes were steely. "Stay low. The DA needs a week to build a case. Don't give Julian a reason to suspect you." But Julian was already moving. That evening, Lucas's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Back off, Bennett, or Mia pays." His blood ran cold. Was it Julian? Victor? Someone else in their web? He forwarded the text to Rachel, who urged him to avoid confrontation. "They're desperate," she said. "Keep Mia close and don't engage." Lucas agreed, but the threat gnawed at him. He picked Mia up early from school, her chatter about art class a brief balm for his nerves. At home, Ava was waiting, her demeanor colder than ever. "You're jumpy, Lucas," she said, leaning against the counter. "Julian thinks you're up to something." Lucas's heart skipped, but he shrugged. "Maybe he's projecting," he shot back, keeping his voice light. Ava's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, her phone rang. She stepped outside to take the call, leaving her bag unattended. Lucas seized the chance, slipping the recorder back into place. He needed one last piece of evidence to seal Julian's fate. The recorder delivered. Late that night, Lucas listened to a new clip, Julian and Victor in a heated argument. "Bennett's too quiet," Julian hissed. "If he's got something, we need to bury him now." Victor's voice was tense. "The charity's clean on paper. But if someone's leaking, we're screwed. Check Ava's stuff, she's been sloppy." Lucas's stomach churned. They were closing in on the recorder. He backed up the audio and sent it to Rachel, his hands shaking. Time was almost up. The next day, Elena texted, "Meet me at the old warehouse, 9 p.m. Urgent." Lucas hesitated. Elena's help had been crucial, but her secrecy, her hacked bank records, her cryptic warnings made him wary. Was she playing her own game? Against his better judgment, he went, parking near the deserted warehouse under a flickering streetlight. Elena emerged from the shadows, her face pale. "Julian's auditing Ava's desk," she said. "He found a USB he didn't recognize. You need to pull your recorder tonight." Lucas's heart sank. "How do you know this?" he demanded. Elena's eyes flicked away. "I've got a contact still at the firm. Trust me, Lucas, or you're done." Before he could press, headlights swept the lot. Elena vanished into the dark and Lucas ducked behind a dumpster as a black SUV pulled up. Julian stepped out, his face grim, barking orders at his bodyguard. "Find him," Julian snapped. "He's here somewhere." Lucas held his breath, slipping away through an alley, his pulse deafening. He drove home, mind racing. Julian was onto him. He had to act before the recorder was found. At midnight, with Ava asleep, Lucas crept into their bedroom, her bag on the dresser. His hands trembled as he retrieved the recorder, replacing it with the decoy. But as he turned to leave, Ava stirred. "What are you doing?" she mumbled, half awake. Lucas froze, his voice steady. "Grabbing my charger. Go back to sleep." She didn't move and he slipped out, heart pounding. The next morning, Rachel called with news. "The DA's moving faster than expected," she said. "Your evidence triggered a raid on Julian's firm tomorrow. They've got enough to arrest him and Victor for bribery and fraud." Lucas exhaled, relief flooding him. But the victory felt fragile. At work, Karen pulled him aside. "The audit cleared you," she said. "The fake reports traced to an offshore server. You're safe for now." Lucas nodded, but the anonymous text haunted him. Julian wasn't done fighting. That evening, Mia ran to him, her latest drawing, a sun over their house in hand. "For you, Daddy," she said, hugging him. Lucas held her close, his resolve steel. Julian's empire was crumbling, but the final blow was coming. Tomorrow, the DA would strike, and Lucas would be ready. He'd protect Mia, no matter the cost. As he tucked her in, her sleepy voice whispered, "I love you, Daddy." Those words were his anchor. Julian and Ava thought they'd won, but the truth was about to burn their world down. The Seattle dawn broke gray and heavy, mirroring Lucas Bennett's resolve. His evidence, recordings of Julian Harper's bribes, photos of shady deals, and Elena's bank records had reached the DA's office, triggering a raid on Julian's firm today. The anonymous threat, "Back off, Bennett, or Mia pays," still haunted him, but Lucas was done hiding. He'd protect his daughter, Mia, and reclaim his life from Julian and Ava's betrayal. The truth was his weapon, and the final blow was coming. Lucas woke early, tucking Mia's rainbow drawing into his jacket for luck. He dropped her at school, her hug a quiet anchor. "See you tonight, Daddy," she said, her smile bright. Lucas nodded, his throat tight. "Always, sweetheart?" At home, Ava was already gone, her work bag slung over her shoulder. Lucas checked it one last time. The recorder was secure, its final clip sent to Rachel Kim, his lawyer. He'd swapped it for the decoy USB, his hands steady despite the stakes. By noon, Rachel called, her voice tense but hopeful. "The raid's happening now," she said. "Feds are at the firm, seizing records. Your evidence was the spark. Julian and Victor Lang are named in multiple counts of bribery and fraud. Stay out of sight until it's over." Lucas paced his basement, the hum of his laptop drowned by his pulse. Julian's empire was crumbling, but desperate men were dangerous. He kept Mia's school on speed dial, just in case. At 2 p.m., the news broke online. Seattle law firm raided in corruption probe. Lucas scanned the article, his breath catching as Julian's name flashed across the screen. Victor Lang was mentioned too, tied to a fake charity and waterfront deal kickbacks. The DA had moved fast, thanks to Lucas's anonymous package. But his relief was cut short by a text from Elena, Julian's at the firm. "He's raging. Watch your back." Lucas's stomach twisted. Had Julian connected him to the leak? He drove to Mia's school, paranoia creeping in. The anonymous threat echoed, "Mia pays." He wouldn't take chances. The principal let him take Mia early, citing a family emergency. Mia climbed into the car, her sketchbook clutched tight. "Is something wrong, Daddy?" she asked, her eyes wide. Lucas forced a smile. "Just want extra time with my favorite artist." She giggled, easing his tension, but he checked his mirrors as he drove home. At the house, Ava was waiting, her face ashen. "What did you do, Lucas?" she hissed, cornering him in the kitchen. "Julian's office is crawling with feds. He thinks I leaked something." Lucas kept his cool, his voice low to shield Mia, who was coloring nearby. "Maybe he should have been more careful," he said evenly. Ava's eyes narrowed. "If you're behind this, you'll regret it." She stormed out, slamming the door. Lucas exhaled, his heart racing. She didn't know yet. That evening, Rachel called with an update. "Julian and Victor were arrested," she said. "The recordings tied them to bribes and money laundering. The DA's keeping your name out of it. You're clear." Lucas sank onto the couch, relief washing over him. But the victory felt hollow. Ava's betrayal lingered, and Mia's future was still at stake. He needed to end this cleanly for her. The next day, Lucas met Rachel at her office to plan the divorce. "With Julian and Victor charged, Ava's leverage is gone," Rachel said. "Your recordings show her complicity in their threats. We can push for full custody of Mia and most of the assets." Lucas nodded, his jaw tight. "I just want Mia safe." Rachel drafted the papers, citing Ava's role in Julian's schemes as grounds for an uncontested divorce. Lucas felt a weight lift, but the scars remained. A week later, Ava showed up at the house, her bravado gone. She stood in the living room, her eyes red. "I didn't know Julian was that deep in corruption," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought it was just us." "I'm sorry, Lucas." He stared at her, his anger tempered by pity. "You chose him over Mia," he said quietly. "You broke us." Ava sobbed, but Lucas turned away. "Sign the papers, Ava. Let's end this." She did, leaving the house for good, her dreams of power shattered. With Julian and Victor facing trial, the firm collapsed under the scandal. Lucas's evidence, anonymously leaked, had sparked a citywide investigation exposing corrupt officials tied to the waterfront deal. Elena texted one last time, "You did it. I'm free too." Lucas didn't reply. Her motives, revenge for her ruined career, had aligned with his, but trust was a luxury he couldn't afford now. Lucas focused on Mia, using the divorce settlement to secure their future. He enrolled her in art classes, her sketches filling their home with color. One sunny afternoon at a local cafe, Lucas met Emily, a school counselor with a warm smile and a knack for listening. She'd faced her own struggles, a painful divorce, and understood his scars. Their coffee dates turned into walks along Puget Sound, Mia skipping between them. "She's like my mom," Mia whispered one evening, her eyes bright. Lucas's heart swelled. He wasn't alone anymore. Months later, as Julian's trial dominated headlines, Lucas found peace. He and Emily took Mia to the Oregon coast, her laughter echoing as they built sandcastles. Forgiveness wasn't about excusing Ava's betrayal but letting go of its hold. Lucas looked at Mia, her face glowing under the sunset, and knew he'd fought for this. A future filled with love, not vengeance. "We're okay, Daddy," Mia said, squeezing his hand. He smiled, truly free at last. Loved the revenge story? Subscribe to Lobby 22 for more epic stories. Hit the bell and join the crew.